Hi everyone, this is S. Venkatesh. I'm from CICT, and today we're gonna discuss cache memory. And cache memory. Cache memory is a special, very high-speed memory. The cache is a smaller and faster memory that stores copies of the data from frequently used main memory locations. There are various different independent caches in a CPU, which store instructions and data. The most important use of cache memory is that it is used to reduce the average time to access data from the main memory. Uh, and the next slide discuss characteristics of the cache memory. Cache memory is an extremely fast memory type that acts as a buffer between a RAM and the CPU. Cache memory holds frequently requested data and instructions so that they are immediately available the CPU when needed. And cache memory is costlier than the main memory or disk memory, but more economical than CPU registers. And cache memory is used to speed up and synchronize with a high-speed CPU. And then the characteristics of the cache memory are it is most frequently requested. It contains most frequently requested data or instructions stores in the cache memory, and it gives the data to the main memory when it requires, when the CPU needed. And it is the costlier among main memory or disk memory, but it is more economical than the main memory and cache memory. And it is also synchronized with the high speed, speed up and synchronized with the high speed CPU. And the next we're gonna see in the image we can see CPU, cache memory, and primary memory and secondary memory. The cache memory will store acquire the data from the main memory or the secondary memory, and it stores in the cache memory. When the CPU sends a request to the cache memory uh, uh, to run the data from the primary memory or secondary memory, then it checks whether the data is available in the primary memory or secondary memory. Then it gives the data to the CPU, and it also made a request to the primary memory to get the data into the cache memory. And by seeing the levels of memory, first level one, register. It is a type of memory in which data is stored and accepted that are immediately stored in the CPU. That most commonly used register is accumulator, program counter, and address register. And in level one, in registers, mainly we're gonna use as accumulator, program counter, and address register, and etc. And the next level two is the cache memory. Level two or cache memory are same. It is the fastest memory that has faster access time, where data is temporarily stored for faster access. Level three are main memory. Is the memory on which the computer works currently. It is small in size, and once power is off, data no longer stays in memory. And then as a level 4 is the secondary memory. It is the external memory that is not as fast as the main memory, but data stays permanently in this memory. When compared to the main memory and secondary memory, in main memory, when the power is off, the data can be erased off. And when in meanwhile in secondary memory, the data can be stored permanently, whether it is a power off or any activity can be regarded anything. And the next one you can say performance of the cache. When the processor needs to read or write a location in the main memory, it requires a it requires checks first for a corresponding entry in the cache. If the processor finds that the memory location is in the cache, a cache hit has occurred and data is read from the cache. If the processor does not find the memory location in the cache, a cache miss has occurred. For a cache miss, the cache allocates a new entry and copies in data from the main memory. Then the request is fulfilled from the contents of the cache. First, the whole process can be done if the processor can be request to a cache memory, then the cache will be checks whether the data is present in primary memory or secondary memory. If the data is present, then it is known as a cache hit. And in case when the data is not present in the primary memory or secondary memory, then it is known as a cache miss. Then in order to it um, for a cache miss, the cache allocates a new entry and copies in data from the main memory. And the performance of the cache memory is frequently measured in terms of a quantity called it ratio. And we're gonna see the it ratio of each h equals to it by it plus miss. And this is equals to number of hits by total number of miss ratio equals to miss by it and total axis. Uh, in case of miss ratio equals to miss by it plus miss equals to number of miss or total access equals to 1 minus it ratio, and it also equals to 1 minus it ratio. We can improve cache performance using higher cache block size and a higher associativity, reduce miss rate, reduce miss penalty, and reduce the time to it in the cache. Application of cache memory. Here are the some of the applications of cache memory. And the first one goes to a primary cache. A primary cache is always located on the processor chip. This cache is small and its access time is comparable to the of processor registers. And the second one is secondary cache. The secondary cache is placed between the primary cache and the rest of the memory. It is referred to as the L2 of level of L2 cache. Often, the level 2 cache is also housed on the processor chip. Spatial locality of reference. Spatial locality of reference says that there is a chance that the element will be present in close proximity to the reference point. And next time, if again such, then more close proximity to the point of reference. And the next one is temporal locality of reference. Temporal locality of reference uses the latest recently used algorithm will be used. And advantages of cache memory. Cache memory is faster in comparison to main memory and secondary memory. And compared to the main memory and secondary memory, cache memory is fast as the main memory and secondary memory. And the program stored by the cache memory can be executed in less time. Uh, and the programs which are stored in the cache memory will be executed less time when compared to primary memory and the secondary memory. The data access time of the cache memory is less than the also data access of cache memory also takes less time than main memory cache memory. Cache memory store data and instructions that are regularly used by the CPU, therefore it increases the performance of the CPU. When the cache memory shows the instructions, it becomes easier to the CPU to work regularly, and the performance of the CPU therefore also increases. And the disadvantages of the cache memory. Cache memory is costlier than primary memory and secondary memory. So before we have said that the cache memory is the costlier, but the economic performance is better than the primary memory or secondary memory. Data is stored on a temporary basis in cache memory, and whenever the system is turned off, data and instructions stored in the cache memory get destroyed. And this is one of the main disadvantages when the data is turned off. The data which is stored in the cache memory will be destroyed. The high cost of the cache memory increases the price of the